Hello, everybody. Welcome along. We're going old school. We're going off the cuff because it is a very, very busy news day. Nigel Pearson is gone from Bristol City out. This has just broken this afternoon. So we've got no production. I do have some notes, but we will go off the cuff. I said to my missus, I'll do the Gareth Ainsworth video this morning and then we'll hang out during the day and I'll do the hot takes tomorrow. No such luck. So we're just going to get this done, get my thoughts out. And then I really want to hear your thoughts down there in the comments. I've just shared the tweet and the opening to this video, the initial thoughts is that Bristol City fans seem to be a bit miffed. Wider football world seem to be a bit miffed with Nigel Pearson being given the boot. The general feeling is he's done a decent job with pretty much his hands tied. We will get into all of that. And it's just gone a bit crazy. I mean, earlier in the season, we got Neil Warnock essentially, walking out on Huddersfield, mutual consent, whatever. He wasn't really happy with the conditions there. And Darren Moore coming in. But we call the October international break the kind of graveyard. And I guess this is the sort of extension. We are the week after it. But prior to that, we saw Cisco out of Sheffield Wednesday. Then a couple of days in, it was John Eustace. Towards the end of the international break, it was Gary Rowett. Then we come back. Essentially, we played a week, haven't we? We've done a 3-game week. And Gareth Ainsworth went last night at the end of that. And now Nigel Pearson today. It is on the back of a grumpy post-match interview from Nigel Pearson. But let's be honest, guys. Nigel Pearson has been in at Bristol City since February 2021, so 2.5 years. And well, you tell me in the comments, what, 10, 15, 20 grumpy post-match interviews? That's just kind of been his thing. And to run back the history on this, so Bristol City came into the Championship and honestly, coming into sort of 18, 19, 19, 20 season, we were talking about Bristol City and don't get revisionist history about this. We were. You can watch back on the channel. We were talking about them in the same terms as Brentford, as a team that was trading up, trading really well, selling high, bringing in new players and climbing their way up the division. Say what you like about how this has gone down since, but I would argue a pretty terrible transfer window or two with big money going on, Hanno Masengo and Thomas Callas. I think Naki Wells in that. There was several in that window where it didn't quite pay off in the way it had done before. Then the pandemic, obviously, did what it did to Bristol City and all the other clubs, but particularly Bristol City with trading and that type of thing really sort of hurt them quite badly. And then there's been the tail off, which essentially Nigel Pearson was brought in to fix, wasn't he? They'd had Lee Johnson. Lee Johnson didn't take them up. It was Steve Cottrell, wasn't it? That would have been 14, 15. Sorry, I'm off the cuff. If I get anything factually wrong, just correct me politely in the chat. A lot of numbers and figures going around my head right now and today. And the argument was that Lansdowne, the Bristol City owner, kind of bottled it a little bit. There was big talks of Chris Hughton, wasn't there? And it ended up being Dean Holden, who was Lee Johnson's assistant. And he essentially went from one extreme completely to the other, didn't he? He took what everyone considered to be the company guy. I like Dean Holden a lot, actually. Don't want to call him a yes man, but someone from within the organisation who many people thought that he saw as a malleable employee. And he went from that to the complete other extreme of Nigel Pearson, who, how do we put this, does not suffer fools gladly, would happily not work a day again in his life from some of the things he says, fed up with modern football and all of this, and basically stuck him in. And I'm an Ipswich Town fan. There's elements of the Mick McCarthy under Marcus Evans here of, look, this is the gig. Can you run the club for me? By the way, there's no money. And do a good job, please. Take us up the table, make some stars and sell them on and make me lots of money because I've spent way, way, way too much. And I think the numbers, I did just have a look. So this is the problem at Bristol City is money and FFP and staying on the right side. lost money in all of the last 10 seasons, according to the Swiss Ramble. Always my source for that. Check that out on Substack. An average I make of 22.4 million lost every season for the last 10 seasons. So I know there's been a lot gone into infrastructure at Bristol City before everyone asked about the FFP and the PNS position there. And I know there were allowable losses in the kind of COVID situation as well. So I think they've been close, but never breached FFP. But I think even the most staunch defender of Bristol City would argue it's not a particularly viable position to be in, even though it did look like they were growing in terms of infrastructure and on the pitch. Anyway, I don't want to get waylaid by this, but it serves to illustrate the point I was trying to make, that Nigel Pearson has been brought in to tidy this mess up. And I would argue, and I think a lot of people will probably agree in the comments, he did a pretty good job of it, didn't he? They had to build stars, and Conway and Bell are still there, and they might be the next ones off the rank. Sorry, Bristol City fans, to say that. But Antoine Semenyo and Alex Scott were the kind of two for the last 2 seasons that had gone, and we'd had the likes of Lloyd Kelly and Bobby Reid. They sold loads of players at good value, didn't they? Adam Webster, I know, wasn't one of theirs, but still hell of a bit of business in and out. But in terms of not spending money, building stars, developing the team, keeping away, frankly, from the trapdoor, that has to be the first thing when you're having a big tidy up. I know Bristol City's ambitions are higher up than that, but 19th first season, 17th second season, so that was 2021, the 19th. 21-22 he was 17th, 22-23 he was 14th. So you could easily argue that they're moving up towards the top half whilst sorting out the financial issues, whilst building stars at the same time. And we all know that if you're in the top half of the Championship, everybody will be able to do a freeze frame on a Championship League table from any of the last years since the playoffs came in the sort of early 90s in their current form with the top 2 and then the next 4. And you can show me a league table where anyone in the top half with a 2-point per game run for the last 10, 12 games of the season is able to get in there. And then you're 3 games from the Holy Grail, aren't you, in the Premier League? So it could have been a lot worse, really, I think, is the argument. Bristol City fans will have a far more nuanced view than I. But from the outside, if that was the brief, it looks like he was making it. Yes, they lost to Cardiff, didn't they, yesterday, and 3 defeats in 4. We have wondered about Pearson and, it all blowing up many times. I remember one game, I think it might have lost at home to Luton. They were behind closed doors, and you kind of thought if anyone says anything to him, he's going to quit in the next couple of days. But it was almost like he never really wanted the job, but he kept doing it and getting contract extensions, etc. in not great conditions, frankly, with the club not in a viable position financially, constantly losing money. We're not breaching FFP. We must be very, very clear about that. And that CEO job above him was a hot potato, and that's been, I think, since Mark Ashton went out of there. There was Richard Gold and Phil Alexander, and I think they promoted someone else, one of the numbers guys from within, to do that now. So I'm seeing a lot of vitriol. That's not fair on the Bristol City fans, but I'm seeing a lot of suspicion towards Steve Lansdowne, the owner there. And yes, I understand there's 2 sides to this. There's this thankless task of being a football owner on the one side, that you're expected to pump money in and lose money hand over fist, have a go, not breach FFP, whilst every year in the Championship, 3 teams come down and are given the 45 million, 50 million, whatever it is now, parachute payments, and you're up against them, and you have to roll the dice, and you have to gamble, and you have to win, which Bristol City were up until, I think, it finished 8th in 2018-19, and then you know what happens if you don't win, and how hard it is to then restructure after that. There's plenty of clubs been in a plenty worse position than Bristol City are after the kind of stabilising work that Nigel Pearson has done. So that is about the size of it. I think that's a very long-winded way of me saying I think he did an all right job. And I think if the brief was, as I suspect it was, let's clear up financially, stabilise and start moving back up the table, then I think he did a good job. Yes, he was volatile. Yes, he was Nigel Pearson. But, well, and this comes to the next kind of point, who could do better in that position? And we all saw, and I'm not saying Bristol City are going to do an Ipswich here, but we all saw when Mick McCarthy was taken out, and obviously Ipswich did tons of stupid things in terms of their trading after that. Bristol City are not going to do that. A, because it's pre-season, and B, because I don't think Steve Lansdown is quite as big a buffoon as Marcus Evans was at that point. That's my opinion. Like it or lump it, frankly. But when you've got this kind of steady hand, basically running the football club for the owner, you really have to carefully select who is going to come in next. And let me know who you think in the comments. Obviously, we're now, all these guys have just been fired, as in Warnock, Cisco, Eustace, Rowett, and Ainsworth. So we could get some real managerial merry-go-round stuff, because there's 3 jobs open right now. There's Millwall open, there's Bristol City open, there's now QPR open. So I don't know. I'm literally just throwing names out there. I have no clue. It does feel to me, though, that QPR seemed a bit more prepped than the other 2. It sounds like, from the statement, and I could be reading too much into it, that QPR perhaps know that they've got somebody who wants their gig, whereas Millwall, right at the end of the window, and I think they may take a little bit of time. And Bristol City, this does really feel like something has come to a head, and Nigel Pearson was the manager yesterday and is not the manager today. And I know that's stating the bleeding obvious, but I don't know whether this is any kind of short-term or long-term plan. So they may have to manoeuvre quickly, and it's a hard job in a season with everything rumbling on. Obviously, we've got another international break, I think November the 11th. So there'll be another 2 Saturday rounds before then, and then there's a bit of time. So you wonder whether it'll be within that international break where all 3 of these championship jobs are eventually filled. But I have no earthly idea who will be the next Bristol City manager, and I would love to hear from you on that. I will stop rambling. Usual apologies. We do have nice production here on the channel, but as you can see, I've just waltzed in here and talked off the cuff for the best part of 13 minutes now. So if I have made any factual errors, my bad. I'm trying to recall it all off the top of my head. What's more important now is I've given my view. You give me your view down there in the comments, whoever you support. What do you think of the decision? I guess the general feeling is a bit stiff, you know, what are you doing type thing. But if that is the case, well, it doesn't really matter if that's the case or not, because he's gone. Who is coming in now? Who do you think should? Who do you think could take the Bristol City job? Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope, for God's sake, this is the last video I am doing today. If you want, you can click up here. Should we go that side? I'm completely off the cuff. I don't know what I'm doing. And we'll put the Gareth Ainsworth reaction there. But in the meantime, Nigel Pearson out of Bristol City is the big story. Thank you for watching. Now go and get that debate going. Hopefully you can make more sense of this than I have.